Hello, everybody. West Tigers Faithful, episode 11. This is part 3 of our end-of-season review. It's a continued part of the Fairies, which was due last week. We lied to you all. I'm sorry. Joe McCord, do you want to apologise to the viewers?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, who we have to thank for that is Pinch Payments, the beautiful sponsor of our podcast, who just unfortunately sent me off to do work. And now I'm down here in the beautiful Novotel Darling Square at the Vet Expo 2025. 24. It's not 25 yet. 25 is the next Tigers Premiership. So if anybody should apologise, it should be the CEO of Pinch Payments.
Who I assume is a decent mate of yours. So shout out Pinch, but also not shout out Pinch. So anywho, as everybody will know, we will kick straight off with, it's pretty much just the current backs today, but some things to gloss over in the West Tigers news cycle, as we always do. First and biggest thing is Solomon Afatape and Ruben Porter have been announced as remaining at the club, this time on development deals. So Ruben's effectively had an upgrade, but I need to take my licks. I thought that Ruben was an outgoing player. I categorised him as such when we review the Pigs. So, Ruben, I'm sorry. I'm glad you're still staying around. With that, Mac, just evaluate it for me, mate. What do you think about both contracts?
I like it. Like we've now got two guys with like solid NRL experience in our dev squad. That's smart. I'd rather have them there than like fucking, some random Jersey flag guy that's never played any NRL. It's good.
Yeah, I agree. Just to sort of evaluate and go back over where we think their sort of ceilings are. I think Solomon will benefit from a second preseason. This time it will be a full preseason from November through Christmas and out the other side. And Porter offers solid depth in a position we have shocking depth. So I'm happy with that. In terms of upside, I think Solomon does have something to offer. I think he can eventually become a top 30 contracted player. Some people, some people think he's really good, others don't. I sit somewhere in the middle. I think he's a guy that can become serviceable depth. He can sit at first drop, and if injuries strike, I think he can do a job, and I think he possesses a little bit of game-breaking ability. Do you agree, Matt?
Yeah, I think that, I always try to pull up short of making actual predictions of exactly how they're going to pan out. I always look at it as ceiling. And like Fatape is like, you said you think he can become serviceable depth. I think he could become more than that. I think if you put a gun to my head and said, what's his ceiling? Like, no, you can't hedge. I'll probably agree with you. But like, he's the sort of player who I think we spoke about this already in both of these players. Like I see in Fatape, if he has like one freak off season, like he might surprise. Like he's got enough skill. He just needs to get his defense right. And with Porter, I think the point that I made last time we were talking about the Pigs was that this is the first time that he's going to be able to go into an off season after having played NRL and really having realized what he needs to work on, as opposed to just dominating reserve grade. So even though he is at that age where you would usually expect development to be slow, it's a unique situation where he actually gets, like, he might have a mental leap. He's not going to have a physical leap, but he might have a mental leap that actually makes him way more serviceable. Like you might see next year, like a savvier version of Ruben Porter that has the same physical skills.
Good point. I think he's a guy that can probably just do a job if called upon. A little bit more experienced, and I think that's good as well, because we have a lot of kids in the top 30 and on the development list that don't have that key experience. I think that my biggest knock on Ruben was the fact that he didn't get on his bike and get to the halfback. If he can work on that, then that quashes a lot of doubts I have about him. I don't think he's going to be there when we win a grand final. I don't think he's a guy that's going to play 20 games a year. But if he can do a job when called upon and be reliable, which he was reasonably reliable for the most part, despite the fact that, ideally you don't have train and trial players having such a key role the way that he did. But at the same time, credit to Ruben. Good on him. Good on Solomona for staying around. Credit to Solomona for taking another development deal. I appreciate that. I think that shows club first attitude. And I'm
Well,
sure.
I mean, let's be honest, Reedy. He's probably like, the spokesperson for Rich Digital now. Like the TPAs are probably flying off. He's probably been like already like named the 2034 GM of Rich Digital.
Well, what you have to be mindful of, mate, is that don't worry about what's going on at Newcastle at the minute, where the recruitment manager, the director of football, and the coach are all Isaac Moses clients, or Manly, where they're all Isaac Moses clients. Let's just focus on the fact that Shane Richardson gave a player managed by his son an $80,000 a year contract. That's the real conflict of interest here. Look, if Buzz wasn't jet setting around the world, by the way, I'm loving his posts on X, just of him standing out the front of the Acropolis and in Edinburgh somewhere. Buzz Rothfield. You should see him. He looks like an Esche out the front of the Parthenon. It is unreal. And in Edinburgh, he then said, "Yeah, sorry about the trendy shorts. They couldn't make an appearance here. It's too bloody cold." It was unreal. But my point is, took me a long while to get there. My point is, if Buzz was not on holiday, that would be back page conflict of interest.
You're probably right.
that Solomon Afar-Tape has re-signed on a development deal with the Tigers.
Boy, can I break the next piece of news?
Go.
What's going on with our favorite, like freaking the world's largest magpie? We wrote a jingle about this guy and he's out the door. What? Tell me about this. What's happening?
Okay. I am not entirely sure. Now, you're obviously talking about Jordan Miller. He's on
the Twitter banner.
This
is devastating for the potty.
He is on the Twitter banner. Look, nothing has been confirmed. There is some smoke and some innuendo that
Jordan some serious rumors,
leaving the club. I want to say that I don't want to bash the club. I don't want to bash Jordan. I'm not going to do any of that yet. I will be disappointed to lose him, but I will say that there have been concerns in the past about his attitude and his application to training. I'm not going to go any further than that. Everything I'm hearing, nothing is concrete. I know I don't know where the outcome is, but what I will say is that where there is smoke, there is fire. Here are the facts. He was not announced on the list of players that were going to the Pacific Championships. A guy like Isaiah Papali'i, who is heading out the door, was one that was named. Okay, so Jordan
was named.
That's right. Jordan was not named. Okay. On that Sunday, Buzz Rothfield, his last column before he went to Europe, coincidentally, said something along the lines of which young top 30 player is about to have his contract ripped up for multiple off-field indiscretions. No player has been sacked yet. Okay. I'm not saying that Jordan's been sacked. I'm not saying he's been released, anything like that. Now, there's a lot of Twitter rumors doing the rounds. Now, there's form rumors doing the rounds. Look, I'm not saying he's gone. I've got no idea, and there's been no correspondence from the club. But
he's gone.
I will be disappointed to lose him.
He's gone. I'll say it. He's gone. This is the Tigers we're talking about. He's gone. And I can't believe it. Like, I'm so devastated. Like, I loved him. I would have married him to my second-born daughter, not my firstborn. Like, he's not quite that good, but second-born.
I will be disappointed to lose him, but if the circumstances around his contract are what Buzz Rothfield is alluding to, then at the end of the day, you look at what happened with Moses Sully. At some point, things come to a head and you've got to make a decision. But again, he has such a high ceiling. And it's really only a conditioning thing with Jordan, and obviously an application allegedly to training. But let's just see where it plays out. Look, I was impressed by him in the Pacific Championship, but did he look like he had something to prove? I reckon he did.
He was killing it, bro. I think that My only thing that it makes me kind of be like, okay, fine, is that it just blatantly frees up a spot for Sione Finu.
Yeah, well, that is one way to look at it, and it might see the progression of a couple of guys. Chris Vangutu is one, Tim Johansson is another,
Mm.
Christian Tapau Moores is another, but let's just wait and see on that. Back to the development scene. The Tigers have now officially announced their development squad. So we'll just run through a couple of them, mainly the ones that there's really only one that people don't really know. So Will Craig, Solomon Afatape, Alex Lobb, Heath Mason, Hiamasi Makasini, and Ruben Porter. I really think it's just Will Craig that people aren't too aware of. Do you want to sort of give a description and talk about him? I know you rate him pretty highly.
Yeah, so Will Craig has he's a sort of a little bit like Felity in his build. He's shorter, he's stockier, um, but he's had some real flash plays in his junior career. Like he sort of doesn't show up on the stat sheet week after week. Like he's not like that dominant sort of like standout prospect, but the moments that he does stand out are like so eye-catching every time that I see him that I always like, man, if only he could actually, just find that consistent NRL player in there. If those efforts were like on top of consistency, he would be a very special player. Like in the I think it was the schoolboys final when he was playing with Galvin when he like made that match-winning try saver like coming from across the field and like
Oh, that
like
was the one I was thinking of. I was going to bring that up.
yeah, there was that. I also remember like watching the Curry knockout last year, and he was playing for the MacArthur Curry knockout side, which was not a very stacked Curry knockout side. I'll tell you right now, he was the best player in that team. It was vivid, bro. Like he was playing fullback, not wing or center, and like there was like he scored a try where he took a hit up from inside of his own half, one off the ruck and he beat the first man and he just ran straight at the fullback and then just did the weave and just went around him. And it was like, what the hell was that? I was sitting there watching it, like going, that's Will Craig. Because before I saw that, I was like, Will Craig, like everybody talks about him and rates him as a junior, but like I'd never seen him really do anything like that impressive aside from that schoolboy highlight. But yeah, he's got some stuff about him. But they did debut him in flag this year, and he did struggle in defense. It seems to be the thing, isn't it? It's like we've got all these like attacking savants that just haven't worked out defense. But I guess that's just the way with young players.
It is a little bit. I agree. I think that the junior pathway game is a little bit more attack focused. I agree in your appraisal in that he has these amazing moments on both sides of the ball, but then there's times when he's just not at the races.
Mm,
Um, I will be honest, I think that it's a little bit too early for him for a development contract, but like a lot of these Tim Sheens and Warren McDonald masterminded contracts, it is what it is. There's an opportunity for Will to be in a full-time system now and to work really, really hard and to, work alongside some talented players. And I think that can only be good for him. I think athletically, I hope he's got one more growth spurt in him, but, he's very, very strong. He's built low to the ground, but he's
mm,
probably missing a couple of inches. But at the same time, this time last year, I had very high hopes for him.
mm,
So we'll wait and see. And furthermore, it's good to finally have some clarity on his future. There was a little bit of innuendo going on. Peter Lang, who's part of the Western Weekender, has a direct line to somebody at the Penrith Panthers, said that Will was going to be snapped up by Penrith. And that hasn't eventuated. There was rumours at the time that it was going to be a swap where Zachary Clark's already headed there, but Will was going to go as well. And Harrison Hassett, who was a back rower in their top 30, was going to come back in the other direction. But as far as I can see, I don't think that's eventuated. So, look, I'm happy to have Will here. He's a Campbelltown boy. He's very
mm.
talented, as you said. He is a guy that can have these amazing moments. But we'll just have to see. Is there anybody else on that list you want to talk about?
The only other thing I'd probably point out is that when they made the announcement, it was literally they said Marcassini will join the development squad when he turns 18. So that means that there's actually a sixth person on the dev squad until that point. And I have a sneaking feeling that his name is Tim Johansson. And I think that the plan is that they've kind of actually promised him a top 30 deal and they've just got him stashed on the development squad in the meantime. That's what I think is happening right now with Tim Johansson. I think that I feel like if Miller does walk, Sione Fino is first cab off the rank that gets that spot, but I feel like there's still somebody else who's going to be moved on, somebody like a Tumeth or something like that to give Johansson his spot, probably Bateman. But like,
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah, look, I'm not too sure where Tim Joe sits in the line of preference, but with that in mind, our guy Adam might be able to shed some light on it or give us
yeah, tell us.
an under the table exclusive.
He's getting the top 30 deal.
You mentioned John Bateman to Manly. Look, I think it'll happen. They're an Isaac Moses operated club. Warren McDonald did that contract when he originally came over to the Tigers, so it's not going to surprise me in the slightest if I see him. The only question is for me, Mac, is how much are you willing to pay to see the back of him? He's on 600K next year. How much are you paying to see the back of him?
Hey, Isaac, I'm paying his entire freight if you let us sign Lachlan Galvin to a 5-year deal.
Oh, okay, all right. So you would happily pay $600,000 to ensure Galvin is a part of our future.
Yeah, not for 10 years, but I'm saying to Isaac Moses, he can play for Manly on us if you give us. Imagine the message that sends to the rest of the playing group, to the club, to the fans that we've got him, because everybody knows he keeps saying, "Hey, I'm here for the long haul. I'm here for the long haul." Kid, no, you're not. You're not signed until next year. Stop telling us you're here for the long haul unless you're going to put pen to paper.
Yeah, okay, all right, I'll back you there. That's a really interesting way to put it, because I had heard that the Tigers were willing to pay a little bit less than half, so around 240K or something around those lines. And
I personally pay a whole freight. I don't think Richo would. He's way more astute than me.
Look, I get what you mean. We can build our franchise around Lachlan, absolutely. So that's a bit of food for thought. But at the same time, can we afford to be $600,000 down in the salary cap right now? Do you think it's
how long is Bateman signed for?
End of 26, so 2 more years.
Yeah, I think we're still $1 million under the cap.
We're close. We're close to that. I mean, they were apparently sniffing around Toto.
Yeah, exactly. So I think so. Like I'm certainly, the point more so that I'm making is I would probably be looking at this, talking with Moses and being like, this whole thing needs to end in Galvin being locked down. So we're going to play nice with you and do what you want us to do, but just don't push it too hard.
Yeah, the hardest thing is that he is, as in Isaac, he's just there's no ethics there. There's no loyalty. So it's a toughie. But if you reason with the family, then that will, I think that will appeal to Isaac. But anyway, look,
that's why we need pen on paper with Galvin, man. Like,
yeah, that's right.
They say like he's saying all the right things and stuff, but like at the end of the day, like even if Luai rocks in and we somehow like make the 8 this year and then next year we make the 8 again and we don't win comps, like I still wouldn't be surprised if Galvin leaves because he's a Moses client. Like I just don't have any faith in like that dude, in his ethics, as you say, and I want pen to paper ASAP, and this Bateman situation gives us at least some leverage.
It does. And we will talk about Lachlan and his season in full next week in our spine review. Speaking of a spine player or a player who wants to be a spine player, I reckon somebody at the Dragons must listen to this podcast, because after we were manifesting Dewey leaving, the line has gone dead. In saying that, I didn't expect that this would pick up until Ben Hunt finds a new club. Do you agree? Is there anything you want to say on the Adam Dewey situation?
No, I feel like that around Christmas time, the West Tigers squad's going to look a lot different than it does right now. That's all I'll say. I feel like that there's so many players whose roles at the club are not even in doubt. They're like we know they're not in the plans. And at the moment, obviously, they're just trying to figure out how to move them on. And if they can't figure out how to do it in a club friendly way, at the end of the day, they're going to do it in a non-club friendly way anyway, in my opinion. I think that we'll ultimately see players paid out if we have to. It's just going to look different.
Yeah, I think you're right. Look, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me either. With that, mate, let's kick into these current players, of which there are five. They played a number of different games. Some played reserve grade, some played firsts. So with that, we'll just kick off. Stafford Toa, 3 games, no try.
He played?
He did. He played 3 games. He averaged 5 runs in those 3 games for an average amount of meters of 33, therefore averaging 6.6 meters a carry. You'll love this. No line breaks, 1 tackle break in 3 games, no offloads, 77% tackle efficiency, 4 try causes, and 5 line break causes in 3 games. But he was disciplined. No errors, no penalties. Look, Stafford, first of all, I'm not going to be super hard on him because he just really didn't get a chance to build momentum. But in saying that, there was a little night in 2023 that many will remember at Leichhardt Oval where it felt as if he announced himself as an NRL player. It was the peak moment in a really, really good about 6 to 8 weeks of good footy. We haven't seen that since. And to be honest with you, my biggest issue with Stafford at the moment is the legs tackle. Oh, my God. Every single time he comes up against his opposite centre, it's a legs tackle, which allows him just to offload the ball.
Yeah.
And it really, really hurts us. Again, I think there's upside in him as a player, but he's gone from a guy that 12 months ago we're all sitting there going, okay, he just needs a good preseason to turn the corner and do that consistently. It's now, oh, okay, all right, we're looking at his contract status, where we're looking at where his ceiling is, and I think it's adjusted considerably, and it's on Stafford to change that perception amongst us and the coaching staff. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I would part of me would just say 2024 never happened. Like if I was Stafford, I would say that. Like 2024 just didn't happen. Like it was because like it was he was injury disrupted like severely. Like and
Yep.
but as in the fan in me, like I watched him in New South Wales Cup before he came back, like because he came back through New South Wales Cup and he was doing the same things in New South Wales Cup that you described. Like he was getting beaten from doing those legs tackles in New South Wales Cup. Like he was getting pantsed in New South Wales Cup. He had one good New South Wales Cup game after he got dropped again.
Mm.
But when they picked him, oh, don't be calling me now. Get out of here. When they picked him, like he had come off a shocking game. A shocking game. Like it was like I was like, wow, like you picked him after that. Like it was like almost like Benji hadn't watched the game. So I don't know, man. It was such a bad year. It was like uncharacteristic. Like it was like he was a better player than that even when he was at the Knights. So I would just bin it and just say, he's just he's in the mix and we'll see how he goes this off season.
Yeah, that's it. Before we move on, I found it interesting that Shane Richardson actually said in a podcast episode with Chris Warren that he was filthy about the fact that a lot of players had gone to play for their country. And in the end, he just never addressed his niggling injuries. And as a result, he was already starting behind. And then sure enough, in his first game, he hurt a hamstring or did an Achilles or something. And that was the end of Stafford. It was extremely disappointing. And again, like 6.6 meters on average for a carry is not befitting of a guy who I know is so strong, built so low to the ground, that wiped the floor with Valentine Holmes. Like,
Yeah.
very, very disappointing. But
I don't really actually, honestly. Am I the only person that just does not rate Valentine Holmes? I know
Oh,
he used to be good.
defensively, I completely agree with you. It's just
I know he used to be good, but my God, he cops a bath like every second game these days.
well, Fatape gave him one at the same ground.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say before. I was like, I don't even know if Toa's like, if Tape jumped him, like, it's a question.
It is a very fair question. Fatape had already leapfrogged Feletti.
Mm,
He leapfrogged Sakuru.
mm.
Yeah, I think that's a more than fair ask. There's a fair thought that he may have leapfrogged the next person we're going to talk about. So with that, Adam Dewey, 7 games, all of which were in the centers. 3 tries in those 7 games and 1 try assist. He was averaging. Adam got busy in attack. We'll give him credit here. You'll actually be impressed by this, Mac. He averaged 12 runs a game for an average of 134 meters. He was averaging 11.1 meters per carry. He had 5 line breaks in those 7 games and 25 tackle breaks. He had 2 offloads as well. Defensively, this is where obviously Adam has his issues. 75% tackle efficiency, 5 try causes and 7 line break causes in 7 games. And interestingly, God, his errors are shocking. 13 errors and 4 penalties. I recall many times this year where I saw a toughness in Adam Dewey with the ball in hand. He would roll his sleeves
Oh,
up.
yeah.
He would roll his sleeves up and he would try and bend the line, which is befitting of a player of his physical stature.
Forward,
On the other side of the ball, that goes missing. And I am still trying to work it out. Because on one hand, you have this passionate leader who's clearly willing to roll the sleeves up. And then on the other side, you have this guy that is a target for opposition defenses and just is constantly making the wrong decisions or isn't willing to put his shoulder in front of his opposite and show a jersey. It is such a paradox. And
I don't know, man. I think like half the problem with him is that he has zero, like non-existent lateral movement. Like so, like I know the knock on him is that he doesn't put his body in front of defenders, but half the time it's because he can't move in front of them. Like,
that's fair.
and he's like his hit ups are all just when he like just manages to find a way to get between defenders, and he's really hard to pull down. He's really good at like pulling through arm tackles and dragging players.
He is. Yeah, he's got good post contact.
Honestly, I've been banging this drum for a long time. He's a forward. He's not a back rower, but because he will be found out because of his awful lateral movement. He's 13, man, but he's like I want to see him there before I'm willing to say that his toughness is his problem because I really think that his problem is mostly lateral movement.
2 things. First thing, when he was coming back from injury in 2022 and Michael Maguire was still the coach, he was doing time at 13 because he was going to be playing off the bench and they had to prepare him for that. So that was made known by Madge at that time that was what he had plans for. Then Madge got sacked. He got sort of moved between the centers and reserve grade, and that was the end of it. When I was at Levels Network, Willie Mason, who has a far more qualified opinion than I do, said that he was a lock as well. The only problem is, and you know what, that does mitigate his lateral movement issue, but there are 2 issues. One, there is a clear problem with his contact, and 2, I just don't know if he has the attitude to do it or the desire to do it. We're talking about a bloke that has always seen himself as a 5'8" or a halfback.
I reckon you throw people like that in the middle, but you throw people like that in the middle, and you can't hide, man. Like
well,
so.
That's right.
So sometimes, like, you look at Papali'i, like it's just like when he went back to the middle, like it was just like, okay, I just have to get in front of people. I have to run straight. Like it's just my role now. Like
That's true.
I just think that I'm willing to be wrong. Like I'm willing for the dice to get rolled and him to run out at 13 in New South Wales Cup and to dog it, and then I'll be like, nah, okay, well he's got no future. Because if his future's not at 13, he has no future.
Yeah, that's it. Look, do you see, providing he stays, and I don't know if he does, I actually think that the club won't stand in his way, if there's an opportunity to play in the halves at St George Illawarra. But say he does stay, is there a consistent role in first grade for Adam Doueihi in 2025 at West Tigers?
Yeah, if he can figure out how to make it work as a 13, there is, because we don't have a 13.
Okay, well, I'm going to go the opposite way. I think the only thing that I see for Adam in his future at West Tigers is playing number 7 for the West Magpies.
Oh yeah, I mean, like if he was playing New South Wales Cup, he's playing in the halves because like he's, you know, probably the best half after our top three halves. But like I feel like in first grade, he's not actually I wouldn't even play him at the 7 in New South Wales Cup, frankly. Like I think like if we have to play him in the halves in first grade ever again, like we're like it's just pointless. So why would you even worry about playing him in the halves in reserve grade? Like it's just I would rather develop somebody there. Like Latu Fainu is going to play in the halves in reserve grade probably. Like there's other decent young halves around the club. Like I think Iverson Matai still has something to offer. I would
I
prefer to
believe
see
that
him there.
he's on his way to Parramatta.
Nah, well, okay. But like
Yeah.
you could sign you could sign up a State Cup halfback off like Ben Stevanovic, come on down. Like Manly aren't going to stand in his, you know what I mean? Like it's not, you don't have to play Adam Doueihi on a like NRL contract at 7 in State Cup. Like I guess my point is like if he's in the top 30 and he's in the plans for first grade, like I would be going, your future in first grade, if you have a future, is at 13. So you're learning your role there in New South Wales Cup. So playing him at 7 in New South Wales Cup is pointless to me.
I'm going to go. I'm going to argue with you, to be honest. I think that our biggest issue last year in reserve grade, because you need a strong reserve grade, is the fact that we didn't have continuity in the halves. It was like 2023 NRL all over again. And, we gambled and we had a guy by the name of Noah Ryan, and Noah is a solid footballer in his own right. But I would argue that in terms of where his ceiling is, I think New South Wales Cup is beyond him. I think that as well, Latu, I think we'll talk about Latu in depth next week, but I think that he needs to do an entire year in reserve grade. And I think it would be good to have a decent half by his side. I think the only question is what number both of them wear. Do you develop Latu as a 7 or do you develop him as a 6? Because I think eventually a day will come when Latu will bang on the door of first grade and make an irrefutable case, and Lachlan Galvin may have to move to an edge or to the middle. So with that in mind, I think that right now for Latu's development, I think Adam is the perfect halves partner for him playing for the Magpies.
Yeah, but Adam won't see it that way. We know the guy. Like he's not gonna he's not gonna be comfortable sitting in in the 7 jersey in the Magpies all year. He won't do it.
Well,
He'll play if he plays 3 straight games in New South Wales Cup, he's gonna ask for a release.
fair enough. Can you see a future for him at right centre, where I know Taruva's been promised a position, but does Sania move to the left wing and you've got a right edge of Galvin, Seafarth hypothetically, Doueihi and Skelton? Or is that just not going to happen?
I think do a job in a good team in centres, I think. Like in a good team, you could carry his defensive frailty there, but his defensive frailty in the centres is insane.
Yeah.
Like a worst defensive centre I've ever seen.
Yeah, you're right, man. Look, I don't know whether or not he's going to be at the club next week, let alone next year. So let's just wait and see. I think that as a backup half, he'd do a really, really good job, and I think he'd be enough.
Yeah, he would. I agree.
I think he'd be excellent. To be honest,
I agree.
A cup spine of Heath Mason, Adam Doueihi, Latu Fainu. I don't care who you play 6 or 7. I would say that Tristan Hope will be there. I'm hoping that Talon will play off the bench next year and supplement.
Yeah, Haywood.
Yeah, Tristan Hope, Haywood, Bailey Hodges, any of those guys. I think that would be good enough to see us back in the top 5 in New South Wales Cup, in my opinion.
You said a name there, and I won't derail the conversation too much, but I want to bring him up because we haven't had a chance to ever bring him up, and his name's Bailey Hodges. Now, I think that like there's a player archetype around the NRL that like every club clamors for, and it's Cameron McInnes.
Oh, yeah.
Bailey Hodges, low-key, had like on a lot of tackles, like a 96% tackle efficiency in New South Wales Cup as a 20-year-old.
Mm.
and he's got ball playing skill and he can kick. Bro, I don't know why we're not talking about this guy. Like
He,
I feel like I feel like he should have a dev deal.
yeah, he might be one for the years that follow. He's a Campbelltown boy. I would be surprised if he's not on train and trial. I think he's pretty important. But you're absolutely right. He can tackle. He can score tries. He's broken the line a few times. And yeah, in a really really shit cup team, he did okay. So look, I'm hopeful. But yeah, no, that's a really good point, man. And he might be one that might be key for our squad, our top 30 squad, not in the short term, but in the medium.
Mm.
All right, let's move on. Brent Naden. God, I have a lot to talk about here.
What segment are we doing? Are we going through New South Wales Cup backs? Like, is that this episode? I thought this episode was about first graders.
Well, these are the guys that are the current players. These are the guys that were apparently first grade quality.
Sorry, Brent.
But then fell off the wagon. There's two players afterwards that played in more than 10 games. But this speaks to how bad our outside back. Brenton Naden, Warragamba resident, 9 games, 1 try, 2 try assists. He was averaging 9 runs a game for an average meterage of 92 meters and an average carry of 10.2. So well done, Brent. 4 line breaks and 15 tackle breaks in those 9 games, 3 offloads. But a tackle efficiency percentage of 74%, 7 try causes and 7 line break causes in 9 games, 10 errors, and conceded 5 penalties. All right. I think I'm going to rant here. Not a great year from Brent in first grade. There was a handful of games where I thought, okay, he played reasonably. But in saying that, I believe, unless there is something going on at training that I don't know about, but I believe he is being made to be a scapegoat for a lot of the failings of our outside backs and of our teams. Now, Mac, in what world is this man a worse player than Alex Lobb and Josh Fellerty?
He's not. Who said he was?
Well, why are they trying?
Why were they playing ahead of him in NRL? Is your question?
Not even ahead of him in NRL. Or actually, yes, Alex Lobb was preferred over him. But why is Brent being shopped around and not these guys? And this is my thing. And furthermore, if Adam Doueihi were to leave for the Dragons, Brent would be my ideal halves partner for Latu and Cup. Because he is the most pure footballer at that level as I have ever seen.
Isn't he good?
Man.
He should be the New South Wales Cup captain.
Mate, that round 4 game where we played against Parramatta and he was basically playing Rugby League Live 2.
Yeah, he's not.
Bombs up for himself, taking them and scoring, kicking 40-20s, throwing bullet passes. Like, look, he's like a budget Jason Smith. He just doesn't care.
You're even old enough to see Jason Smith play.
Oh, I am old enough to remember Jason Smith and his smoking habits. But Jason Smith was one of these dudes that just football came to him so naturally, and football comes to Brent naturally. Now, again, I don't have a future for him penciled at West Tigers in first grade at all. No chance. But if we're going to talk about players that are on the chopping block, I feel as if the Brent is the guy that I would keep. And that a contract like Josh Felletti's, for example, I assume is minimum wage. Alex Lobb, hypothetically, is on $80,000. I just, again, and I don't pretend to know what goes on at training or behind the scenes, but Brent is a guy that I wouldn't be so desperate to move on the way that the club is.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, Rudy. But my mind just constantly goes back to this one night after we won a game, and it was the 9 cameras were in the dressing room, and Brent Naden was like standing up on something in his like undies, and he was wearing like Technicolor undies, and he was like dancing like he was a fuckboy. And I was just thinking to myself, like, that's why the club doesn't like him, because he's just a rat bag. Like, he's just a rat bag.
Yeah, but but a guy's like that.
I bet they don't like the idea of him getting around the lads and shit. He's probably just not a good role model, man.
Look, maybe that's
it's a big fight to take, isn't it? But like, I hear you from a footy standpoint, man. Like, didn't he slay New South Wales Cup? But conversely, he's almost a little bit like bloody Casey when he goes into first grade. Like, he goes into first grade and just like the like 5 alarm fire goes off in his brain, and he
Oh,
just starts
literally.
doing stupid shit.
Mate, I can't believe that this was the player that was snorting rack the night before a grand final.
So, okay.
And came off the bench and nearly single-handedly won them that game with the way that he was creating opportunities on that right edge. The
Yeah,
year after, he falls out of favor for that reason, understandable. Signs with, it wasn't cited in first grade again, then signs with the Dogs, and then falls off the radar and ends up with us.
got all the talent in the world, that fella.
Well, maybe I've just said it right there. Maybe it speaks to his application at training and his inability to put in the hard yards, because
Yeah.
I just see such a natural footballer, but
It's a
ultimately,
shame. Like, but yeah, like you're totally right, man. Like you hit the nail on the head there. Like with his level of talent, Penrith wouldn't have let him go. The Dogs wouldn't have let him go. The Tigers would be playing him. Like, there's obviously something we're not seeing.
yeah,
Obviously.
that's it. Look, and with that in mind, I'm not too surprised. But look, he's on modest money. He's there till the end. He's there till the end of 2025. If they can't shop him, I think that he'll do a job in State Cup, whatever position he plays. So whatever happens, happens, I guess.
I like him, man. I hope he figures it out. Like, imagine seeing some of the shit that he did in New South Wales Cup in first grade. It would be mind blowing.
Well, mate, you know what's a perfect competition for him, and that's England. Like, he would be amazing there. He would win a Man of Steel, genuinely. If seeing the caliber of player, like, don't get me wrong, I love Mikey Lewis and guys like Junior Nasemba and other guys, but to see how Bevan French has taken to the Super League, don't get me wrong, he's exceptional. But my God, Brent Naden could do the things he's doing.
I
Let's
agree.
face it. So, anyway,
Next.
Justin Olam.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Signed, I think, over Christmas in a swap with Sean Bloor in the Melbourne Storm. We know how that turned out. Shout out Sean. 13 games for the Tigers this year for Justin. 6 tries, no try assists. He was averaging 12 runs a game, so quite busy, but didn't have the same effect or dent in the line as Adam Dewey. So 12 runs for 104 metres and an average carry at 8.6. 13 line breaks and 35 tackle breaks in 13 games, 18 offloads, 60, and a tackle efficiency percentage of 68%. So not too great there from Jazz. That said, he's just trying to belt people in the line, when they're coming out of yardage. So he's going to miss some tackles there. 7 try causes in 13 games, which is probably the best of all the wingers and outside backs on this list.
Which you'd expect.
Yeah, and 11 line break causes, 11 errors in 13 games and 6 penalties. People have been quick to judge Justin, in my view. I think at the beginning of the year, he was exceptional. He looked like everything we needed. But as time went on, it was clear that he wasn't training very often. There were constant reports that he was rehabbing his knee and getting injections and everything like that. And that was clearly hampering his cohesion with the players outside him and obviously his preparation. And I think that reflected in his games. Now, while there was some stinkers and he lost his head a couple of times and obviously got sent off, whether or not you agree or disagree with it, obviously there was, so something went wrong. But I think that the Tigers have done exceptionally well to get this guy to agree to go under the knife to fix these 2 knees. Now, I'm not saying we're going to see vintage Justin, like 2020 caliber Justin Olam next year. But I think that with more time to train, more time to prepare, and less worry about his knees, that I think you'll see a guy that'll put in a really, really solid year. What do you think?
I don't know, man. I hope so. Like, obviously, if we could get even like 80% of like best version of Justin Olam, he's our best outside back. So I hope so. I don't know. I'm not a surgeon. I don't know what the prognosis is going to be from going under the knife. Like, I feel like players at his age, when they have double knee surgery, it doesn't fill me with confidence. But
Yeah.
talking about him from this year's perspective, I agree with what you said. I think he started off fantastic. I remember we were all pumped at first, like as Bloor initially looked a bit a bit off
Yeah.
base. Oh yeah, we won the trade, boys.
I remember you saying after the Parramatta game, and you'll love this. This is a receipt, and I'll dig it up. But it was something along the lines of whatever happens from here, nothing matters. We won the trade.
Well, we won that game, so I mean they're few and far between for the Tigers. So, but
That's it.
Olam, look, I don't know. Olam's a big question mark for me. Like he looks like a dude who might be on the back nine and maybe playing the 17th or 18th.
Yeah, but he could also go the other way and go, you know what? I had a terrible first year at this club. They deserve better. I'm going to have a crack.
I don't think it's mental though.
I don't think it's mental either.
So like if his body gives up on him, there's not much you can do about it. Like he's a dude who's like made his career off of running like as hard as any human being in history has ever run into another man. Like it's it's not surprising that like his body's giving up on him the way he played.
You're
And
so
like,
right.
there's obviously a reason that Melbourne started like playing him in Queensland Cup and then we're happy to ship him off for a broken down young back rower. Like let's be honest, Blore was an injury prone kid. So I don't know. I'm worried, but I hope so. I'm a little less worried than I was before because I kind of feel like that there's some signs there with some of the signings we've made and some of the kids coming through that even if Olam does fail to pan out, we kind of might be able to account for it a little bit.
Yeah.
In the medium term, not the short fucking term. In the short term, we'd be screwed. We'd have Adam Dewey in the freaking centers again. Oh.
Oh, that's right. Look, we need one more year out of him.
We need one more year out of him, 100%. Yeah.
And then sort of if he sort of goes into a depth role or he gets usurped by Makasini or Lauli, then you're okay with it. But
what Felity? Like, let's not write Felity off. He's still
right.
20, bro.
Look,
like, we've got some good, like, high-rated prospects. So they're like high ceiling prospects, and some Felity's like not shown out yet, but I'm not willing to suggest that he doesn't come good. He's been given some pretty high praise from some pretty good players, so he's probably got something to offer.
Mate, I hope you're right. But we'll see. Last one on this list who managed to play 22 games is Charlie Staines. 9 tries, 1 try assist in those 22 games. He was averaging 13 runs a game for an average amount of meters of 107, so therefore an average carry of 8.2 meters. 11 line breaks in 22 games and 30 tackle breaks, 16 offloads in that time as well. It reads pretty bad. His tackle efficiency percentage sits at 60. He had 25 tries causes in 22 games and 26 line break causes. Made 16 errors in those 22 games and no penalties. Do you want to take this one?
Who are you talking about?
Charlie Staines.
Oh God.
Who am I talking about?
I missed it. I was off in La La Land when you said the person's name, and then I was like, geez, I hope I can tell from these stats, but no, he lost me. Yeah, I'll talk about him.
Right.
I like him a lot. I don't know. I go up and down. Some weeks I love him so much. But by the end of the season, I think he actually like ended the season kind of all right. Like the thing that bothered me about Charlie is like I love that he runs like hard out of even though he gets smashed. Like I love that he puts his body on the line, but he's supposed like if he's not going to be like a dominant winger out of yardage, and he's not like a high ball threat, then he has to at least be able to finish tries. And that was what he was good at when he was at Penrith. Like he was reliable on the end of those backline movements. And so he scored a shitload of tries. And, there's been some wingers at the Tigers over the years that weren't all that and then some, but my God, they scored a lot of tries because they had finishing ability. Bo Ryan comes to mind, right? He scored a lot of tries just because he knew exactly where to position himself for those ridiculous 5-head Benji Marshall passes.
Yeah.
Charlie Staines, he like never seemed to be in the right position for that last pass, whether it was a cutout or whether it was coming from the center. And I have to grant him, a lot of those passes sucked because they were forward passes coming from Fatape or some other, chestnut idiot. Like, but
But
by the end of the season, they were sticking and he was scoring. Even in heavy defeats, he was scoring. He was starting to tick over the scoreboard and score some tries. I'd like to see this supposed ninth fastest player in the NRL once or twice. That would be nice. It would be great to see. The thing about fast players that Charlie Staines doesn't seem to do is like fast players, they run at the ball and then they run into space,
they
right?
do.
So like you'll see Hamiso, he has a feel for when the ball hits the ground or when the ball's gonna hit the ground. So he's already running at where the ball's about to bounce. And so he
Yeah.
gets the ball and everybody else is already on the back foot. So then you get to see his speed. Charlie's never there. Like he's never like it's like he's trying too hard or something. He's just never he's because he's like so in the moment all the time. He's never observing the play and it never allows him to use his speed. I don't know. That might sound weird, but like those real super freak speed machine players that you get to see open the engines all the time also have that anticipation, and that's why you get to see them in open space a lot. And I just don't feel like Charlie has much anticipation.
He got the yips, genuinely. After that bowel perforation, which was a shocking
Sorry, Charlie.
injury,
I
where he
forgot
almost
about that.
where he almost died.
Yeah, he did
Um,
almost. I'm sorry, Charlie.
he had a couple of games towards the end of last season, but there wasn't heaps going on.
You know what I just realized, Reedy?
Go.
At the Tigers, we've had a winger who had his bowel perforated, and we also had a winger that was the bowel perforator.
Who was the perforator?
Hopper.
Oh, of course.
The perforated and the perforator.
Did you see Hopper at the Pacific Championships the other night? We were putting his finger up.
No, I didn't.
Oh, well, that was an omen for tonight's episode. Charlie. Look, again, super courageous and very, very tough and works really, really hard. But yeah,
I do like him a lot. Yeah.
he was my big prediction at the beginning of the year. I had him scoring above 15 tries. Didn't happen, and then that's
Our entire outside back score 15 combined.
great question.
If you take Buller out.
Yeah, no, I think they just got there, but great
Okay.
question. Yeah, mate, I agree with everything you said. It's just he just wasn't in try scoring positions. He had some issues with that. There were some moments, case in point, Mike Acevo on Easter Monday, where he held his own defensively. There were other moments where he didn't. Those stats reflect it. 25 try causes in 22. That's not good enough.
I just reckon his eyes are too close together, man.
That's it, you reckon?
Yeah, because like when your eyes are too close together, you don't have good peripheral vision. So you're not seeing as much of reality.
That's got to be it then.
Yeah. Have you seen how close together his eyes are? It's pretty fucked up.
Anywho, look, I think Charlie is one of those players where ideally he's really only playing 6 to 8 games a year. Given the sheer weakness of our squad,
He'll be playing 25.
yeah. That's
Oh man, Charlie Staines, first
look,
choice outside back at the West Tigers.
Look, he can be relied upon,
Great
but
call.
at the same time, the floor is lifted. I think he'll have to compete with both Luke Laulii and Jarrell Skelton for a spot. So that should bring out the best of him, and hopefully, another preseason away from the bowel injury will help him. But right now,
Oh, sorry,
yeah,
I'm so immature.
that's all right. It
The
happens.
bowel injury just it just doesn't happen. Like is that not the most West Tigers injury?
Oh, isn't it just? Isn't it just? Anywho,
It just doesn't happen, man.
no, it doesn't. But it happens at West Tigers. It always does. Let's finish off with some questions. So just cast your mind around all of these outside backs.
Mhm.
These questions are really only about defense. So according to Fox Sports stats, 8 of our outside backs in 2024 were in the top 50 for average try causes per game across the league. Okay. So we nearly accounted for 20% of the top 50 or something like that. My maths is shit house. 7 of those players, now that Fatape has been announced to staying around, and interestingly, Jarrell Skelton is also in that top 50.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So for average try score causes.
Is Taruva?
No, Taruva is not in it.
Oh.
So the question now, but he's going to play center, so that's a different kettle of fish. But the question now is, can Morris fix 7 outside backs that are just leaking points at will?
Yes, because it starts with being dominant in the middle. And like, I think that we can fix that. I mentioned on previous podcast episodes, like all of rugby league is synergistic. Attack flows off defense, defense flows off attack.
Yes.
Kicks tie it all together. But defense is also synergistic inside of itself. If you can get up quick, if you like have quick ruck speed, if you defensively dominate the ruck, if you're able to slow it down without getting penalized and do all that stuff right, you put less pressure on your outside backs. Now, I want to put something back on you. If you took this year's most common back five that the Tigers ran out.
So Buller, Staines, let's say Fatape, Olam, and I don't know who you got at left wing.
Alai Marlow?
Yeah, I
If you took those 5 and you put them in Survivor Series WWE against any 5 outside backs at any other club, are they not the worst? Would they not get their shit pushed in by every other back 5? Yes, they would. There is not another back 5 in the entire NRL that is less alpha male than that back 5. That's the problem. And it's the problem with the club in general. We do not have enough people who would be WWE champions.
I completely agree. Completely agree. You're on fire today. Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? I know.
So are you telling me? Are you telling me now that it's a personnel issue? Because you told me that it was a West Tigers issue.
Look, I mean,
it's a bit of chicken or the egg, but I think it's both. What do you think?
It's both, but it's a personnel issue in 2024.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, add Taruva and you add Skelton, and then you got Olam, and you got a little bit older Buller, and then it's just that extra position there, right?
Which
and
might
like
be
then you may be competitive in that sense. You know, then you maybe not walk over back 5. Like you're not like it's even just Staines to Skelton changes that dynamic a great deal. Like just being like a pushover back 5. But Penrith don't have like a dominant back 5 in that respect. Like the Roosters do, you know, there's clubs that have like dominant back 5s, like dominant men. But the Panthers don't. So you can still defend well with back 5 of smaller stature if you have good defensive systems. But I just feel like the Tigers back 5 is on an even like another level to the Panthers when it comes to their like strength and their willingness and their toughness and their like grittiness and durability and like I just think that, you know, they were like they were too far off the pace. Like I don't think you have to hang your hat on it, but you can't be as far off the pace with that kind of stuff as we were. Like we were rolling out dudes that were like, some of them are probably NRL players in some respects, but they weren't physically in their best NRL shape. They weren't, you know what I mean? Like they weren't. Charlie Staines felt like a different player at Penrith. Like that to me, it seems to always bloody happen. Like like every player comes to the Tigers and then suddenly they just look smaller and they play more feeble and it's weird. I don't know what it's about.
It's a system thing.
I'm pretty sure it's because every other team has a drug program.
Right. Let's talk about that another day. Next question. There's been links to Brian To'o. There's been links around Ronaldo Mulatalo going to free agency. There was, before he signed with the Dogs, Marcelo Montoya coming to the club. But we have failed at this point, as this podcast has been recorded, to have signed a left winger. But we have two young players in Luke Laulii and Hiamasi Makasini coming through the ranks. So my question to you is, how badly do we need a left winger? And is that a position of priority for you heading into the free agency period?
It'd be nice to have for sure. Like if we could sign like a quality left winger that like, you could get a good solid 3-year contract out of and expect them to be rep or sub rep level, I'd be happy with it. But I'd much rather spend the money on a back rower.
Yeah, I agree. And a middle and a lock.
Yeah, and I think I'm pretty bullish on Luke Laulii. Pretty bullish on him, and he's a left winger, like when he plays wing. And he has a great combination with Galvin. And like I was surprised at how quickly you saw it in first grade. Finishing try in first grade in like their second game together. Like that was pretty cool. Like it gave me a lot of confidence that I wasn't hallucinating at like the naturalness of their combination. I definitely think that like I'm confused whether Galvin's going to move to the right or like whatever. I almost feel like it makes more sense for him to stay on the left just because he's a younger player and therefore is probably not going to be as adaptable as Luai, who I think you could rely on to be able to kind of like modify that role and like figure it out a little quicker. But then you also have to look at it and go, Luai's strengths play on the left, and do you really want to play with that? It's a tough one for me. But if you've got Luai there, I think Luai knows how to treat a left winger too. So
yeah, look, straight away, left foot kick, right foot kick. So Luai and Galvin, respectively, that's just where it's going to be. That's how it's going to be. So I think that Luke will be taken care of by Luai. And I know that he is your bolter for round one. So look, as you said, I completely agree with you. It's a nice to have. It would be nice to have a polished winger and a guy that has had success in our wheelhouse. But at the same time, the development of our youngsters, because let's be honest, we're not going to do anything, of massive note in 2025. Isn't I don't think.
You don't think we're going to win the premiership?
Oh no, I don't. Unfortunately.
All right, I'll have to take some ayahuasca and see if I can't.
If
bring some love.
If the squad moves in the manner that you think it might, then who knows? But
Tim Johansson is going to come back and look like he's one of those monsters from Space Jam.
Well, if that happens, mate, I'll be delighted because I am a big fan. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all we've got time for, mate. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
Nah, I got drinking to do.
You do, and I have packing to do. I'm going to Melbourne on a Bucks weekend. Mate, you take care of yourself. To our listeners, thank you as always. To Pinch, shout out to you. We'll be back next week where we review the spine. Thanks, guys. Sorry we're late.
No, I'm not sorry. Bye.
Bye.